This is Good Morning San Diego.
Coming up on Good Morning San Diego, when it comes to the interview process, have you ever heard of polite persistence? If you haven't, then you need to know about it. Phil Blair from Manpower is going to join us to explain.
All right, we have all had our fair share of interviews. We all know about good interviews. We all know about bad interviews. But how much do you know about polite persistence after that interview? Here to tell us more about it is Phil Blair from Manpower. Good morning.
Good morning, Amy.
You know, yeah, you do. You have an interview, you nailed it, everything's great. Then what do? You got to be careful at that point, right?
Well, what most people do is wrong, and they go home and wait. And they say, okay, I've done my thing. Now I sit at home and wait for the phone to ring. Wrong answer. As an employer, part of the exam, it feels like sometimes, but the interview process is see how well you follow up after the interview. I want to know how bad you want the job. And if you go home and just sit and do nothing, then I think, wow, you're not very energetic, you're not very involved, you really must not want it as badly as the other candidates.
But some people might think, well, but I don't want to bother them, you know, I don't want to be a pain.
Well, and you certainly don't want to be a stalker. I mean, the people that call too often and leave 6 voicemails. It happens, 6 voicemails in one day.
No.
Thinking, oh, I'm paying attention to the hiring manager. You're stalking and you're irritating, and the first thing that we think as hiring managers is, I would never want to work next to that guy. He doesn't fit in at our company, or she doesn't fit in. And so that's the problem. And so you have extremes, doing nothing or doing way too much. My phrase is polite persistence. Let me know you want the job. Follow up very professionally. There are a variety of ways to do that, because the first question I get when I make presentation, well, what do I do? What's the difference between stalking and ignoring? There's a whole series of things you can do that are very impressive, that shows that you want the job and you know how to handle the process.
All right, let's talk about some of those in that series. What should you do? I'm assuming texting is not the way to go.
Texting is not the way. There's a whole variety of using voicemail and drop-offs and articles and books and drop-bys. I mean, we're going to go through a whole list of things you can do. And timing is very important. You don't want to do them too quick. You don't want to have too far in between, because if you have too far in between, the decision's been made and you're done and you're out of there. And you need to judge that. You need to understand the hiring manager, their style, and see if they are the type that would like a little more attention or a little less. And sometimes you're dealing with a computer system and a monster, and you can't do anything.
What if you're up for a job in another department, but the hiring manager is the person you've been interviewed by? Do you always contact the hiring manager again, or would you go after the eventual boss that you're going to have?
Very polite persistence, because you don't want to irritate the hiring manager. It appears you're going around them or over their head. A very nice handwritten thank you note to the department manager, because you probably interviewed with them, and that's appropriate for everybody you interview. Sure. If you have a panel interview with 5 people on it, write 5 thank you notes.
Really?
Even if you just adjusted Joe Smith at ABC Company, it'll get to them eventually. But they'll know you followed up well, and the quality of the thank you letter, not an email. That's the easiest thing in the world and means nothing. Yeah. It's so easy to hit delete.
So even in this age of technology, handwrite something.
Because of the age of technology, we go back to handwriting. If you stand, when you get the mail and you stand at the trash can going like this until you get a hand-addressed card, looks like your Christmas card from Grandma with $5 in it, right?
Yeah.
That's the one you open. Well, it's the same thing with emails. You sit there going delete, delete. Somebody took the time to take nice-looking stationery. Don't take your wife's, wedding invitation, thank you cards. Oops. So it's appropriate, with flowers all over, delegate that says, sorry, I missed you,
So penmanship is still important these days. That's refreshing to hear.
If you have terrible handwriting like I do, and probably you do, I'm not above suggesting somebody else write it for you.
Okay.
But there's a whole thing in the thank you note of referring back to the topics you talked about. But this polite persistence that shows you have energy, you're involved, you have good judgment, and you really want the job. That's the person we're going to hire.
Okay, you're going to come back next week and talk about...
We're going to be very specific on what polite persistent looks like and how you can judge what kind of follow-up the person needs, because your judgment of the hiring manager is very important in this process.
Polite persistence.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Just like dating.
Just like dating.
Just like dating.
Except for more important, maybe, in some cases.
Maybe not.
Yeah, it depends.
Next week we'll talk about that too, which is more important.
Phil Blair, thanks.
Thanks.